Raise your hand if you were pitched that real estate investing was a way to create passive income. I don't know what it was about the last decade where passive income, that term just became thrown around everywhere, be used to sell courses, to sell just about anything, and real estate investing is one of the biggest pieces where this passive income idea came from. Over the last 10 years, I've done everything from buying and holding rentals and being involved in syndications and investing in just about every way in the business that you can. And I found that there's really very few pieces of real estate investing that is actually passive. And if you're personally buying it and owning yourself, I would almost be willing to bet you that 100% of the time it is not passive. So get that idea all the way out of your head. But today I do want to share with you a concept or a way that anyone can invest in a real estate or in the real estate industry in a way that's truly passive. And just like anything, you don't get your cake and eat it too, or however that saying goes. You're not fully invested in real estate and get all the benefits associated with owning it yourself. But this is a way that even with as little as $10 to $20, you can go out and start investing and be able to tell people that, yeah, I'm invested in real estate. Because I think that's part of the reason why people actually do it, is to be able to talk about it, because it's the cool thing to do right now. But this is a platform that allows anyone. You don't have to be an accredited investor like you do for most syndications, and you don't have to lock your money away for 5 to 7 year holds like some of the unaccredited options that are out there. This is a platform that allows you to throw in some money, and you're essentially lending money against real estate to operators out there in the field. And this company does the vetting for you and gives you a rating on all these investments. And I'll share all of that in just a minute. But I wanted to start out with a background around what this platform and company is actually all about, and present it to you as an option of something you may want to consider, especially the way the market is right now. A lot of people are sitting on the sidelines or have cash that's available and kind of want to experiment. So this is just a tool. I'm not fully endorsing this company. Full disclosure, I have actually invested in the equity of this company. So I do think it's a great idea. I do this myself, as you'll see here in just a minute when we dive into the computer. I'm not recommending that this works for everyone, but if you want to experiment, you can do this with very low dollar figures, passively invest, and I'll show you at the end how it's even possible to generate upwards of 50% returns. Of course, not financial advice, no returns are guaranteed, but we'll just look at this and I'll explain kind of how I'm going to be using this to kind of experiment and go about generating high percentage returns. But I also just want to share with you something that wasn't obvious to me up front, is that when you're investing very small dollar figures or amounts of money, the returns, even if they're, 100 or 200x, really don't change your life much. So don't get the expectation you're going to jump in here with a little bit of money and turn it into $1 million. That's just not how that works. If you invested $100 and got 100% return, congratulations, you now have $200, right? So what are you going to do with that? So, I mean, you really have to bring that into context with what you're putting in here. If you invest $10 and get a 20% return, hey, you got $12 now. But just keep that in mind, that unless you're going to throw large chunks of money at something like this and get a decent size return on it, it's likely not going to turn you into a millionaire overnight. But guys, this is just something I'm doing to diversify some of the cash that I have sitting on the sidelines right now, just to experiment with. But guys, yeah, this isn't for everyone, but if you're out there experimenting with crypto and you have a Robinhood account and you're self-picking your stocks, this might be a good way for you to diversify into something that I feel is a more solid asset class to invest in, and I've done it myself and have gotten pretty good returns. So with that, guys, let's dive into the computer. I'll show you exactly what this company is, how you go about doing this yourself, and another disclosure for you, I do have a link below that if you use it to sign up, you get $50 and so do I. But as soon as you sign up, you get the same link that you can share with your friends. But other than that, guys, I don't get anything out of this. My intent for shooting this is just being a resource that you respect and trust in the community that you go to for answers of real estate investing when it's time for you to do that. I don't have anything to sell you. I don't have any courses. I did write a book. If you're interested in learning how to use a HELOC, you can get that here. But other than that, I'm not going to push anything on you, and I'm going to give you the honest truth about my experience in my over a decade now of real estate investing. So with all that, let's jump in. All right, guys, so the company with the platform that allows you to passively invest, truly, actually passively invest in real estate, is called GroundFloor. That can be found at groundfloor.us. All right. And so this company effectively allows you to be a private lender to other real estate investors and make a return on that money. Now, typically a true private lender is someone who's actually going to source the funds for the whole deal. These are people like your rich grandpa, your rich uncle, your rich friend who wants to invest in real estate. We use private lenders all the time to fund our deals and allow them to get a rate of return in exchange for that, and a much better rate of return than they would in the stock market. What GroundFloor does is essentially crowdsources that private money. When you get logged in, you click this Invest tab, and it shows you different properties that you can lend money against with a minimum of a $10 investment, right? So it takes $10 from maybe 10,000 people and, creates that full loan amount that they're looking for that investor to purchase that deal. So for example here, we'll just click into one of these, but as you can see, they each have ratings against them. So these are rated C's, B's, and D's, right? And so those ratings correspond to the risk that GroundFloor has done the homework to evaluate and give it that ranking, right? And so as you can see here, a lower rating in terms of a D or F will correspond to a higher interest rate that you'll earn because there's more risk associated. That's how this whole world works in terms of investments. The higher the risk, the larger reward you should make for taking that risk, because there's a higher chance that it could not return you that money. So depending on your risk tolerance, you have to evaluate these investments differently. But look, let's click into one here. Let's click into a C. And then you'll learn a lot more about the deal here. So I'll just cover kind of the high level. They're looking for a rate of return of 11%. That's the return that you will get when looking at this. The projected term is over 15 months. So that's really what you care about. If you invest in this, you're looking to invest for 15 months. It gives you the overall loan to ARV, so the current loan amount, how that corresponds to what they believe the after repair value will be. Now, you can dig deep into here, and I'll do that for the purposes of this overview, but most of the time, I come in here, I look at the rate and the term and decide if it's right for me. Of course, if you're invested a significant amount of money, you probably want to look into all the details here. So we'll keep going. So they have one more day left to raise $74,000, and they currently have 1,965 investors that they're crowdsourcing together to come up with that total amount there. The purpose of this is to refinance and then rehab the property. It gives you a little bit more about the actual company and who you're actually loaning that money to. But GroundFloor does a lot of these background checks on these people for you and then kind of gives you their scores here. We'll talk about that in a second. Financial overview, here's what they think the ARV is going to be. Here's kind of your gap. Here is the amount that they're asking from GroundFloor, so the total projected cost. And then skin in the game is what that borrower actually has into this deal. So you want to know that the borrower has some skin in the game so that when things go bad, they're incentivized to do the right thing because they need this to work out too, not just risk to the investor, right? Okay, so let's look at the grade factors, and these are kind of a proprietary system that GroundFloor uses to compare apples to apples different investments. So loan to ARV score, you guys can read through these on your own. I'm not going to do that, but obviously the higher the score, the better. The lower the score, not so good. So skin in the game. So that you put all these factors together in order to come up with that overall of a C grade on that, which corresponds to the rate of return. You can look at some different stuff here. You want to actually look at the address, the specific property address that you'll be investing in, so that you can tell your friends about it. Hey, I'm invested in this deal in Texas right now. Makes for good coffee or family conversations, small talk, if you will, if that's something you're interested in. I don't recommend you make investment decisions based on conversation purposes, but I know everyone likes to do things differently, and you have your own motives. So for what it's worth, yep, you'll get that here. You will see kind of the fees that GroundFloor charges to kind of do the background checks and run all of these. Little history on the borrower themselves. So I do come down and typically look at this if I want to dig in. So this guy has, he's gotten 5 loans funded. He's repaid 4 of them. He's done 2 this year, or 2 per year. This is kind of his report card, if you will, to decide whether you want to invest with him. So you can go out and look at all the available loans, and let's say you have $1,000 you want to experiment with, and you might want to throw $100 in 10 different properties to diversify your risk. You may want to take, grab you a couple D's, a couple C's, and then most of it A's and B's to kind of make sure you're well-rounded in your investment and have a good spread of the risk there. I wouldn't recommend going all in on the D's. That was my strategy in the beginning, and I found that just like anything else, I mean, these are real people out there in the field operating these businesses, and I have lost money on some of these deals. Now, overall, I have a very low rate of failure on failure to return capital. And sometimes it's gone well over the term that they recommend. But guys, this is the real world of investing. Nothing really ever goes to plan, and things aren't 100% of the time going to work out like they are described here. The other cool thing here is that they recently added this notes section here. So you can go into here. Now, these are ground floor. You're basically loaning ground floor money to go do different things with that money. You can read all about the secured promissory note that you're making to ground floor specifically. If you want to invest in that, I'll leave you to do your own research on that one. But like I promised in the beginning, this is how I'm going to go out and experiment with potentially making upwards of a 50% rate of return. In fact, in this scenario, it would be a 60% rate of return if the plan works like it should, or the way I'm mapping it out in my head. So one thing you'll have to keep in mind here when you're looking at all these loans or notes is that you have to annualize the return. And so what that means is, let's say for math's sake, you're investing into something that creates a 12% rate of return. What a lot of people don't consider is that 12% is spread out over the whole year. So you're effectively only making 1% per month on the money that you've lent out. But in this scenario, the term is 1 month. So I can loan, let's say I put $100,000 in here and I get 5% back in 1 month. So that's different. If we annualize that return, that's a 60% rate of return, right? Because I'm getting 5% times 12 months because I can do this every month, assuming this note is still out here and assuming that we get all that full money back at the end. You can keep putting that back in, and that's something investors often refer to as the velocity of capital, of how quickly can you churn that same amount of money over and over and over again. If you can only do it once a year, then that annualized return is still not bad. But if I were to take this and do it every month, it actually would be upwards of 60% because I'm now taking that 5% return I got in the first month and putting that back in. And so then that extra 5% that I got is now earning 5%. And then the next month I'm getting that little bit of 5% along with the previous 5% going in. And you can see how that continues to compound. So it actually would be upwards of a 60% rate of return if you were to do that. Guys, no guarantees, and I'm not affiliated to do this in any way. I'm just sharing with you how I'm thinking through this and why the term is so important when you look at the rate that you're getting. Now, one last note that you want to pay attention to here is the payment, whether that's deferred or paid monthly. So that's what your rate of return will get. Deferred means at the end of the term is when you'll get the full rate of that return. So you'll get 7% here at the 3-month mark, but in this example, you'll get 8.5% annualized. You'll get that payment every month in terms of interest. So that does pay out monthly, which some people really like. Some people don't like that. Another thing here on the note section is the minimum investment is $1,000 as opposed to the $10 when you're just loaning out to private investors out there in the field. But I'm more of a risk taker. I'm going to experiment a little bit with throwing $1,000 in here and see what kind of return you'll get here. If we want to do the annualized math to see what could get you the most return here, if we look at 7% every 3 months, we would do 7 times 4, which is 28% over that year, or 5% over 1 month. It's 1 month times 12 to get you to the full year. If we annualize all these returns and compare these respectively, we would have a 60% here, a 28%, and an 8.5% since that's already at the year mark. So I'm throwing my money at the 5% loan. I'll keep you guys posted how that goes. But I hope this is helpful, guys, maybe just to give you a tool or something just to share or experiment with. I don't expect you to make this your full real estate investment strategy, but maybe just a diversification tool or something to do with your money other than let it sit in your savings account, likely earning 0.00 something percent. But if you got any value out of this, I would always appreciate a like or subscribe on the channel. Share with someone else that may get value out of this as well. That's a free way to support the channel, and it would be much appreciated. But with that, guys, I'm Tyler Wehrung, and we'll catch you next time.